We have 4 big events that we have coming up. So first one is there's a CCDC mock on November 6th. That is a Saturday.
That's my birthday.
Very good.
Yeah, that was my
So that'll be at the same time when we had the Cyber Conquest. And for those who don't know, CCDC is a defensive-only competition with Windows, Linux, firewall, injects. I believe the teams we haven't decided what team size we'll have yet, but it's kind of just like the defensive-only side of Cyber Conquest. So there will be no pen testing. It'll be just securing your boxes mainly. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah, why did you not beat that one guy?
What does that mean?
You need to pay attention to the thing.
So after the mock competition, sometime in November, we're having CCDC team tryouts, and those will be so that way we can know who will represent the school for the CCDC regional competition and hopefully the national competition if you guys can be out the regional teams. Does someone want to explain what CCDC is over there?
I think you should. You're doing a great job. You should keep going.
I don't know.
Wait. Are those local ones?
So CCDC, like I said, there's defensive only. There's Windows, Linux, firewall, and injects. So the tryouts will include those 4-ish categories. So if you guys you can pick what category you want to. You can pick multiple, and we'll have tryouts. They'll only take like an hour. We're thinking we'll have most of the people be on one time or like a set of periods. Like we'll be like, they'll be like 1 to 5 and 1 to 2 will be this category, 2 to 3 is this category, and so on. And then people who can't make it to that time, we'll try to figure out a time outside of that. For the tryouts, there won't be an active red team. However, it'll be Hivestorm-esque kind of competition where we'll give you a vulnerable box and we'll see how well you can patch it in that hour and write a report on what you did. And then we'll look and see if you guys did a good job, bad job. Like if you didn't even change default passwords, that's not going too good in your favor. There are some, I believe it's drive.defsec.club. We do have some checklists. If you need some templates to follow, you can find some on there. We'll have another Cyber Conquest. It'll be pretty much the same as what we had in this last Saturday. So that'll be the attacking and defending. However, this time we're hoping to have look at your feedback and make some changes. So we'll have a lot better of checklists. We'll have like the checklists that we had were accidentally for like Hivestorm and not like an active red team attacking you kind of thing. So we'll have commands like how to change your password right away or how to enable your firewall, Windows Defender, and we'll also have commands on there what you can do as red teamers. Like last time we did drop a couple things of where you could go, but we'll make sure to give you some like basics like you should SSH into here and try this password and see if you can get a shell, and we'll like step up the difficulty like if you want to use MSF console to exploit different big vulnerabilities like MS1710, we'll have that. So if you guys want to put this on your calendar, those just 1 and 3 on your calendar for so far, that'd be nice because once we have the signups going, the more people we have signed up, the more likelihood that we can more competitors that we have, it'll make it more interesting. Hopefully one day, if we have enough competitions like this that we have enough to show up, we can get the whole Beacom lobby, and we could have the scoreboard on the giant TV and a whole bunch of tables set up, and that'd be pretty fun if we had enough people showing up. So the last thing I had was the Dean's Cup. That's usually taken over Christmas break. It hasn't been announced yet by the Dean of Beacom, but this is kind of a competition. It's kind of like a hackathon if you guys have ever been a part of one. You just make your own project as a team or as an individual, and you submit the idea by the end of Christmas break or some arbitrary deadline they have set, and the faculty will grade your submission compared to everybody else's. Like last year I took second, and I got $250. The first place got $500, and a Dean's Cup, which is like a cup they got from the store here at DSU. I personally made a doorknob attachment for your doorknob that you can control from your phone, so you can unlock it and lock it remotely. I believe the first place winner had used Google's API to track where phones were. Like they used their Google's location API based on different Wi-Fi access points you could see around yourself. So that was pretty cool. I'm not sure what the other 2 people had. You could see it on DSU's website, both the news. So, any questions about any of those future plans that we have going on? Yes.
So like for tryouts, can you like show up for like multiple slots if you want to try out different
Yeah.
aspects of okay.
For sure.
Is it like a maximum or minimum, or can you just?
Nah, if you can go to all 4, be my guest.
Show off the whole thing.
If you know
You're only going to get one position on the team if you do make it, but
if you know how firewall works, you can try kicking Galen out of his spot. As officers, we are not guaranteed a position, so if you guys want to try to kick us off the team, let's see it.
Oh, cool. Sounds good.
So for this presentation, we'll have questions at defsec.club up and running. Let's hope that the VFs are deployed. Gillen?
probably.
I can click on mine, but it's still blank screen. So.
That's fine.
All right. So
to be fair, my computer's also been frozen for the past 5 minutes. So
we'll be starting out with the Kai box.
I don't actually know what it looks like.
All right.
It says it's on.
Hi. So this is my box. Yeah, that's about it. Cool. Thanks for coming. No. So I did some rude things, some of which might have been a little bit too complicated. So yeah, I'm working on it. That's not. There we go. Okay, so on this box, I named it Kai. I guess it was or K-A-I. I guess it was supposed to be K-E-I. Whoops.
I never noticed.
Regardless, so first thing that you probably would have noticed is if you tried to like change your password. That what? Shane,
It says that.
is this the
That's not,
wrong
that's
environment?
Put that prompt on.
What do you SH do?
Kai?
What a E on that?
100?
That should be right.
You're supposed to be
Okay.
there, maybe.
Cool, our environment got borked. That's fun.
No, it's
fixed.
working.
Yeah, sure, fixed.
All green. Look at that. But
Yes.
all green.
Just because it's green doesn't mean that it's the right environment. Oh my god. Okay, well, that's awkward. That's not supposed to happen.
Free chatter and
I can use my imagination.
Yeah, right? Haha, you can't see this.
Well,
Yo, I can see it. Because I have glasses.
I can't spell. Thank you, Johnny.
Let's go.
No, we can just use this one. So this is the correct box, maybe. Live demo's already going great. As always.
we're always proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, well, I guess I'll go and explain what exactly that is. So, chatter or CHATTR change attribute. So there's different attributes that you can put on files in Linux. The one in particular that was used in this case is the immutable bit, which allows a file to be changed or not changed. So if you make a file immutable, it's not going to get changed, and you have to first make it unimmutable before you can change it. So if you make a file immutable, then operating system functions that automatically change a file won't work. So like changing your password, it has to write to the shadow file /shadow, which is where all the passwords are kept in Linux. So if you make that file immutable, it can no longer write your new passwords. So password changes just wouldn't work, which hopefully
It is mutable, so
it is.
yeah.
That's awkward.
I would run down.
Yeah,
New target. Whatever. Terrible.
Tell me what this is with?
Open terminal. So the way that you'd fix that, can you, yeah, I guess, okay, I can just use this one. This one's so much easier because I can actually zoom in it. Well, the way you'd fix that is chatter.
Wait, LS first.
Yeah, can you show what it looks like?
So you can tell, it is immutable. Okay, that's weird. Might have been the Pam jank. So you can tell with the ls attr command, so list attributes, and right here it's that I means immutable. So you can do what?
What does the E mean?
Good question.
I was curious. Okay. Gotcha.
We don't know. So you can,
Excellent.
So that's what it should look like. If it's mutable, that means you can't change it. So if we add that back. Oh.
With the immutable bit, that means you can't change it, neither than the red team. So if you want to slow down the red team, adding immutable bits to some of your files is a valid method of slowing them down.
That's basically
So if I like change something here, it'll say in nano error operation not permitted to write to that file. But if I
it's like if you minus
don't do that and then go and break the system by changing some random hash, just gonna like add some extra characters there,
I just deleted that.
then it just works. Doesn't yell at you. Okay, so that was the first thing. The next thing that you might have noticed is if you were a normal user, right, and you wanted to like get to root, so you'd like sudo tac s, normally it asks for a password, right? But you might have noticed you spelled your password wrong, random keyboard spam, and it just worked. That's not good. That is not intentional design.
I gave it to someone else.
We have, oh good, we have internet for this environment. Okay, so that was caused by something called Pam. Pam is complicated and no one seems to fully understand it very well, but Pam stands for Pluggable Authentication Modules, and it is the system that's used to authenticate users. So SSH plugs into this along with sudo and like a bunch of other authentication measures. So also if you SSH to like DSU at localhost, oh, okay, I can't spell, localhost, and just entered like random password spam, you'd get into. So this one, people probably would not have been able to detect very easily. I guess you'd be able to detect it pretty easily, but you might not have understood what was happening or just thought you typed your password right. But this is a super nice thing for Red Team, and Red Team will sometimes do this to your boxes because they can just get in with any password. So the directory, let's see. So first of all, there's the Pam Config Directory is /etc/pam.d. This is where there's a bunch of like config files. So if we open up like common auth, oh boy, that's not what I meant to do. There you go. You can see it's like file, most of its comments. There's a few important lines. It's kind of confusing, but the important thing is there's this pamdeny.so and pampermit.so. So pampermit is run when you're allowed to log in, and pamdeny is run when you're not allowed to log in. So for this, all you have to know is that those are files. So this command runs find / so that lists every file on the operating system. This just redirects all errors, like any can't access this file, to dev null, which we don't really care about. And then this grep tac I pam underscore deny will search the output for the pam underscore deny file name. So it finds like this, which is in the man directory, so it's a man page. Probably not very useful. Yeah, this is a good way to find files, by the way. If you know the name of a file and you have no clue where it is, this command, changing out this pam underscore deny for whatever the file you want to find is, very, very nice way of finding files. I don't know why this is taking so long. Okay. I mean, it doesn't take, there we go. Now it's going. So right here, you can see that there's this pamdeny.so file. And then there's also this pamdeny.so.lol get hacked.
That's funny.
You might have already guessed, but that is not that's not base.
That's syntax right there.
That is not, in fact, default Linux syntax. So if we go to that directory, lib x86_64-linux-gnu/security, there's a bunch of different PAM files in here, but the important one is this pam underscore deny, which is right here. Now you might look at this and be like, hey, he just renamed the file, right? So if we just copy pam underscore deny, deny.so.lol.gethacked, whoops. So if we copy that file over pam deny. Now, you might not have known, but this was like I just copied it to this file. So if you had known that, then you could just copy it back over. Everything works fine. Everything's good. So now when we like are a standard user and we try to sudo, whoops, that's not going to work. Okay, well, there's another reason for that. So if we go to like some random user and then we try to change to another user and it asks for their password, random spam will no longer just like accept it blindly. So pam permit.so pam deny.so. So this is how you would unfix that. You just copy permit over deny. This is a really janky hack, and red team likes to do this sometimes because it's just easy. It's like one line and then all passwords work ever. There is another way to do this, which is if you use dpkg tac capital S pam deny, then you get what package this is from. So this is from libpam-modules. So if you reinstall libpam-modules, then it will reinstall this file and overwrite that file, and that will fix it again. So yeah.
Just ran updates, so that fix it by default, like more of a shell.
If it was getting updated, yes, but if the binary doesn't change for the next version, then it would probably not.
It could have not.
There's a chance it would have, there's a chance it would not have.
Probably wouldn't.
Let's see, so the next thing is we are the DSU user, and we try to sudo. You might notice there wasn't a password. It didn't say like, hey, enter your password. Yeah, that's bad. It should always ask for your password when you try to sudo. So this was caused by the sudoers file. So etc sudoers is what defines which accounts are allowed to use root level permissions, like sudo permissions. So the etc sudoers file, so there's some comments at the top, some config parameters. These are the important lines. So right here, this is saying that the root user is allowed to run all commands as sudo, like no questions asked, right? It also says that like the sudo group is allowed to run commands as sudo, so you can like sudo and then do stuff, or members of the admin group. So in a CCDC style environment, that's probably not a good thing because the only person you want to be able to run commands as root is root. You don't want normal users to. So you could delete these lines. I'm just going to leave them in there for now. If you checked the groups on like all the users, all the users I added to this box were in the sudo group, so they would be able to run commands as root. But the kicker for this file is, well, first of all, this all, that line, that just means that like everyone can run commands as root, so probably a good line to remove. But the other important thing is this line. This line looks like a comment because it starts with a hash, but it's not actually a comment. It's saying to include the etc sudoers.d directory. So if we look in this directory, we can see there's a file. It's just a readme. So you might be like, oh, readme. That's not very important, right? Well, if we cat this file, then you can see most of it. Oh, boy. OK. So most of this file you can see as comments, right? But then there's these two lines at the bottom which aren't comments, which are doing the same thing where they just allow like everyone, no password, run sudo stuff. So first of all, these lines should just be deleted. Like you don't want that. But also you can use the vi sudo command to edit the sudoers file and go down to the bottom and remove this line, this include dir etc sudoers.d. That will just no longer use files from the sudoers.d directory to add more sudoers. So probably a good thing, and then we can also remove that all. Let's see, what else did I have on here? Oh yeah, SSH keys. SSH keys are fun.
Yes, sir.
So, you might not have noticed this, but it's always good to check what is in the .ssh directory. So in your user folder, if you go to your user folder /.ssh and look, there's an authorized keys file sometimes, and like maybe some other stuff and like a known hosts, a few different files. So I touched on this briefly in my SSH presentation, but the authorized keys file is what people's private keys are allowed to sign into your box. So if we cat this authorized keys file, we can see it's just, this is all on one line. It loops around, or it wraps around here, but this is saying that this root at Kai person is allowed to log in using their SSH key. So this might not seem very bad because that's like, wait, this is the same box, like it's root at the local box. They're allowed to log in, that's fine. However, the part that you might not notice immediately is that that's this ID underscore RSA, this key, this private key right here, and this key was on all the boxes, the exact same key. So that means that if you had this key on any of the boxes, on any of the .10 Kai boxes, you could SSH into anyone else's .10 using this key, which wouldn't ask for a password, so it would just let you in. So that's kind of a bad thing. You probably want to delete that file. But you might think like, okay, well, phew, now they can't log in as root. But each user has this .ssh file. So if we ls/home, you can see there's all of these users on the system, right? So if we ls/home */.ssh, we can see there's actually a lot of .ssh directories. Well, in fact, one for every user, and all of them have this authorized keys file. And you might have already made the connection, but I'm a little bit lazy and just made one authorized keys and just copied it to everyone and gave everyone the same private key. So that means that any user could SSH to any other user using their private key. Yeah, so that's kind of a bad thing, and you'd want to delete all of these because they're all bad. Yeah, so you could just like remove authorized keys, and I mean really you could remove like all the things in this folder, and you could remove /home /all users /.ssh, and it deletes a bunch of things. So all of this stuff deleted, bad, easy ways for people to access the system. So I think that's about all. Oh yeah, and then Apache. So Apache was a little bit more complicated. So since I compiled Apache from source and probably didn't do it right, because I'm not very good at compiling things from source, the config directory wasn't actually /etc/apache2 like it normally is. It was here, user local apache2. Can you read that? Hopefully you can read that. You know, probably would have been a good idea if I had just like turned down this light before I started presenting, so people could actually see the screen. So this is where all the config is. So httpd.config. So this is like the main Apache config file. It's gross, it's big. I don't like Apache. Yeah, but I used Apache because of that sweet vuln from last week. So basically the best bet here would be to just like apt install Apache 2, which would install the latest current version of Apache. That also moves the config directory, so you'd have to manually move all of the important files over to that new config directory. There are just like one important file, which is your hosts, your virtual hosts. So if we do this, it's totally going to break.
Nice.
Live demos. Woo. Yeah, so this just installed the latest version of Apache. So that is not right. There we go. Yeah. So actually, no, this isn't the latest version of Apache. Wow. This is the latest version for this distro and everything, but it's not version 2.4.49, which is the important part, because that's the one that's super vulnerable. So yeah, basically you just install that, and then copy your config over to Apache 2, over to right here, to this apache2.config. And then you're running, not garbage custom compiled Apache that's running as root and has a bunch of vulns. Any questions? Awesome. Wow. Cool. So now Austin, I think. Is it Austin? Cool. So now Shane's got some stuff.
Wow. Great now.
Hello.
Hi, Shane.
Hey. That's me. Segfault. What? Okay.
There's another console open somewhere with.
Well, too late.
Exit segfault. That's kind of sucks.
We don't worry about it. Okay, so if you were on Masaru, which is .12, you pronounce it however you want. I'm not Japanese. So I'm gonna try to go approach it like a triage, how you might in the actual competition, because everyone, I feel like half the people spent half the time trying to get password change script to work, and I can imagine that was a lot of fun. But this is a different competition type than CCDC, so whenever you find a vuln, you want to turn it around and then kind of milk it as much as you can. So if you found one of Galen's vulns on that box, you'd be like, okay, let me juice this. So if we check the scoreboard, which I just turned on, we can see that someone's scripts are still working on Team 2, so I'd like to congratulate Team 5 for making it work in persistence. No, you're not. You're Team 1.
We're not, we're Team Burton.
That's Team 5.
Anyway, so as soon as you get into a box, you probably want to change the root password. So I'm going to change the password to, no, my palindrome. First challenge is typing. Okay, now my password changed for root, and other people shouldn't be able to log in. We'll test that later, but then I will change all users' passwords on the system. And in true fashion, I don't remember exactly the password change script, so I'm going to do my best. So I'm going to do for every user in a parameter, command, whatever, replacement in etc password. And I'm going to grep for bin bash, because anyone not using bin bash doesn't deserve to have their password changed. And then I'm going to cut on the delimiter of a colon, the first field. And just to kind of show that works, I'm going to just print them all. It's actually a bash scripting lesson. And you can see I forgot to type do. And then I deleted the rest of my line.
Can you explain the parts like kit with each?
No. There you go. So I have a list of all shell users on the system now. So I'm reading the password file, which contains all users. I'm grepping for everyone who has bin bash. So as you may or may not know, etc password has people's shells in it, like this. So sbin no logon, because you're not supposed to log in as postfix, because what are you, email? Then only these users are supposed to be real users with actual passwords. So if you read SE shadow, that should back it up. So we see SE shadow, these people don't have any passwords because you're not supposed to log in with them. Epic. So we have this script now, which prints out all users that I care about. And then I can just type a password. So I'm taking suggestions. Passwords.
Password.
I'll do Sean. Sean Tubang.
Let's go.
That's it. And then I'll pump it to chip password, which does. Okay, exclamation marks. Don't work. What? All right. The terminal's canceled. So if you do an exclamation mark, Bash will interpret that as a thing unless you escape it. So now I changed all user passwords on the system.
Let's go.
Let's do it. It's epic. So
Is it okay for all users to have the same password?
probably not. No.
Not the default one.
Yes, you're right. You probably don't want it to. But
If you want to be cool, you can do this.
yeah.
But then you don't know the password.
Well, you make a good point. So I'll do you one. I'll do you one better. Why does backspace not work? What is going on? Okay. Anyway. Oh, this is actually my fault. So I made the terminal Emacs or Vim bindings. when it's supposed to be Emacs by default. That's what you're used to.
Let's go.
So don't worry about that. It's my
I
fault.
love checking my email. You know.
I bet you do.
Wait.
Oh, okay, so I'm gonna set P to this, and then I'm gonna retype that. Yeah, let's get it.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the nanosecond date, and I'm gonna hash it. And then I'm going to print it, and then I'm going to echo it into what's your password. Any complaints? So now I have a list of passwords,
You got me.
and there you go, and they're all the same. So I kind of defeated the purpose.
If you want them to be different, you just put like their username plus and then your secret string, and then only you know the secret.
Okay, I figured it out. You're
I
wrong.
love secret strings.
So now they're all different, and I have all their passwords. So I would go over here and just straight copy this.
What did you change to get it different?
So I was doing lowercase n, which isn't a real thing, so I was hashing the error from date. But you don't have to worry about that. So it's capital N if you want nanosecond. And then I would just make a file called like Bergen underscore.
That was our team name.
It literally was a
Yeah, I wrote that. This one's. So I want to change creds for master SSH. I do this, and then actually I lied to you. You don't actually have to type stuff for the rest of it. It was a sham. And then I do that. I upload it to the scoring engine, etc., etc. It's boring, whatever. Galen, your laptop's low on battery. You have a charger? You have a charger? Okay. Any questions on that part? We just change passwords. It's epic. It's lit. It's in here.
Just learn how to bash script, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So here's a line for you. You can memorize that. So
That's not
Alright, I got garbage.
Bergen, you got this.
yeah, that's the password. Ben, you got questions?
What percent each password to the user's username plus the secret string?
Sure.
How would we do that?
You're valid. Okay, bash scripting lesson.
Yo, bash keys in here.
So I could echo the username plus like. So don't worry about it, but I'm doing this, and then like yeet, and then that's everyone's username plus the word yeet. Is that what you were hoping to do? Okay, yeah. So in regards to checklists, Austin posted this absolute dumpster fire of a checklist, and we asked him not to, but he wouldn't let us stop him. And you guys ended up looking at that for too long. The password change script there, busted, worthless. So I will. Yeah, it was trash. I implore you to start writing your own checklist, right? Because even if it's like bad, you understand it, hopefully, and that makes it much better than anything on the internet.
And also, if you write your own checklist and share it with us, then we might add it into our checklist.
Yeah,
Or
give us your
replace
free
our checklist.
free labor.
Yeah.
No, don't send it to us.
Hey, what is this?
So yeah, so you can take this if you want. Cross-platform, changes passwords, pretty epic.
Can you remove the shoddy D6 so it makes more sense?
Can you rot in hell? Damn. There you go. So that's it before you hash it, but if you do that, then I will personally red team you.
That's a lot more typable though.
Yeah, so
Are those the passwords or those?
this is the username, colon the password.
I got it. Yes, yeah, you know what? They're all different though, except for, yeah, they're literally all different.
They're literally all different.
Yeah, but if
They're literally all
Red
different.
one of those passwords,
They won't figure it out. They're not
What
smart.
if you hashed it?
Who says he?
What if you hashed it? That's a great idea. That's what we were just doing.
Hash it. And then they have no idea what it is.
Exactly. So that's why Austin asked me to remove it, which is why I did
We
it.
changed them all.
And it's
to
literally
various internet, right?
exactly what you said, but hashed.
Yeah, that's the juice.
So that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Here's the juice, here's the squeeze.
Except-
So no one's actually going to be typing these. It's just for the scoring engine. I suggest you don't change root. If you don't want to change root, you can just grep it out or change it back. Whatever.
Dude, how the freak did Annabelle know what our password was? Like, seriously. Like,
Yeah, no, we changed them, but she knew what we changed them.
you're like,
to.
you never know. And she's like, shut
How did she know?
So as soon as you change your passwords, you want to test them. So I'm going to try root it at my IP from my real box.
People hacking us.
12. So password bang doesn't work, which you should always check because there might be Pam things, there might be other shenanigans. Just make sure it actually worked. And that's that. So now you've changed passwords. It's 2 hours into the competition. And
Hey, that's pretty good.
yeah.
I changed default credentials 15 minutes before that. Did
Yeah, I was there. I saw. So the next thing I will do typically to triage a box is to see what's listening. So this is socket statistics, ports listening, UDP, TCP, and don't translate names. So I just say plunt. That says plunt. You can think of it as like a ship name. So we see right here we have 22 SSH expected. Postfix is listening on local. That's fine. We don't care. SMB is open. That's not one of my critical services because I'm checking in my scoreboard right here. Cool. So I don't know if you guys realize this, but there's stuff right here which tells you exactly what IPs and what ports everything is scored on.
You guys don't know what port FTP is?
Yeah, so FTP is 20 and 21, but it's only scoring 20. Don't worry about it. So Samba's not on the list, so I'm going to just yum uninstall, or I would if I cared. But you should uninstall Samba. And then we got SOCAT on 6666, already suspicious. But I do see that is a scored service, so I'm going to figure out what the heck it is. So we can see the executable name is SOCAT, so I'm just going to look at all processes on my system, also a good command to know, psocxf, and then I'm going to look for SOCAT. So I see SOCAT is running right here. It looks like they're checking first if it's already running. If it's not already running, then run it. And it's running opt cheap. So let's check it out. It's a critical service, so it's probably important. So we see right here, just by looking at this, we probably know it's a CTF challenge that someone put on a port. You may know that because it's called chow.c. And we read it. Yeah, we read it. They give us a source code. Nice people. And we see that, obviously, just a moment's look, it's a heap overflow exploit. And it's, yeah, so that's bad. So no one actually exploited this during the competition, which I didn't expect them to. But there is an exploit script right here that works with very gentle modification. You just need to change the IP up here, and it should work. And the port, obviously. But the important thing here is when you see this binary, you can like try to fix it, step one, or you can add a backdoor and then put it on other people's systems, right? Like if I was right here, and I know this is running, then like, okay, first let's check out what, that is not localhost. Let's check out what it looks like. Okay, so I can type create, size, 55. What the heck? Anyway. So I can put a backdoor in and then put this on other people's systems for when they patch it inevitably, right? So I can go into create, and then what if I'm like, if size, this is a C programming lesson now, if size is equal to 55, then that's not how C works. Then you can do system bin bash, something like that. And then if you just go into other people's systems and they think they're secure, they type 55, shell, instantly. So I haven't actually tested this, as most things, but I'm going to output this to cheap2, and then I'm going to run it with standard equals C99 because, you know, don't worry about it. And then I have a shell. Any questions?
That was pretty impressive.
Thanks.
Thanks, he says.
So yeah, that's an example of how you can see a vuln in your own thing, and then even if you don't care about like heap exploitation, you can turn that around and then yeet on other people. So I can just SEP with my root creds that everyone hasn't changed yet, and then I can SEP cheap2 over their cheap binary. It restarts. I get hella points. Yeah. So that's port 6666. If you wanted to actually read the code and fix it, you could also do that, but that's boring. And we see we also have port 80. Which is HTTP, which is our last scored service. So I'll take suggestions from the crowd. When you see a web server, what do you do first?
Register my account for internet.com.
Okay, good ideas. Anyone else? Excellent. I heard from me you check it out in a web browser. So
I was thinking that, but I was too scared to say it.
don't worry, I will make fun of you. So I know it's this. I'm actually from the VPN, and we see it's, I don't know, commie garbage. What is this? Anyway. So it's something. It's a plain text page. So I'm going to check it out from my side. And if I want to see, I know it's HTTPD, so I'm going to check HTTPD. Yeah, you know it. That's the important one. And then I read through this at the speed of light to know, obviously, it's in var www HTML. So here it is. And it defaults to index.php, which is this, looks the same, but there's a web shell, guys. Guys, there's a web shell. And if you delete PHP, it will break the scoring because it will just print this, and it's scoring long live Akira. So that's how I did it, so you couldn't just remove PHP. White team's winning as always. SSH is broken because it didn't submit password changes. We always do. So the best way to fix PHP shells is what?
Uninstall PHP.
No.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
PHP at all on that.
Yeah, sure. Who are you?
You go like that.
Filter your in. Update it maybe.
Sure, all good ideas. What I would do is PHP ini, go into disable functions, and then disable the functions, because it won't work without system. But the only thing that's really scoring here is input concatenation, which you can't disable. Like what? So just disable functions like system. And we talked about that previously. You can also Google it, whatever. If we check out what else is here, this is a symlink to Etsy Shadow, so that's kind of epic. I'm going to remove that. And then there's also shell.php, test.php, which I know are not scored because I looked in the scoring engine. Also, it's bad. And that should be about it for this box. And then you just go through your other checklist, do some hardening stuff. You can fix SE Linux. You can set up monitoring and logging. You can do this. Why do I type bad? TLF. If you want to read this and you have your screen spammed, you'll know every time someone logs in or every time cron runs. Yep. So that's this box. Any concerns, questions, insults? I'll take anything. Jake? Thanks. Okay, bye.
So there was one question in questions, which was, what was the command to check what the package for a file is? So that's dpkg techs.
It only works on Ubuntu.
Alright, I know we're getting pretty close to 7. We only have one last box to finish, so if you have to leave, feel free. I won't be too offended that you left in the middle of Windows. It is pretty dry and boring compared to Linux, so go ahead if you want now. Yeah, now's your chance to escape. How do I close out of this garbage terminal? Can I close out without breaking things?
Everything will. Want me to find out?
Just like minimize it. I don't know which one has the
Remain on the side there for a bit.
What? Oh, okay. So here's the 2 Windows boxes. We only have one in the environment that was deployed to you. That would be the Active Directory Kanita box at .14. I decided that we don't really need the 2012 box. Nobody really likes 08 or Windows version 8 because it kind of sucks. So if you guys want to deal with the Active Directory one, you can play around with that before they're nuked in a couple hours. So the required services that we had on the scoring engine were Active Directory, DNS, and IIS. Due to the limitations in the scoring engine being built last minute, we couldn't actually score the Active Directory. So it was just, I believe DNS was the only thing that was being checked on both those. And Samba. Yep, I think maybe both were Gemma Samba. And Samba was actually one of the vulnerabilities. You couldn't quite disable it. You had to patch it. And there's also web shells. RDP was enabled, and I borked the Defender pretty bad. So yeah, probably I doubt anyone was able to fix that by the end of it. Oops. Okay. So let me close out my Defender. So we have our RDP client open. We hit enter on the box. Well, we can just log in with default creds. Oh my! I think Galen's keys are just broken. So we log in with password and bang. Preferably not the $100 box. Make it your own. Like.
change your screen size.
Change your resolution inside the window.
That's nope. All right, now step 1, maybe adjusting your screen size if you're able to. So what we can do is go to Katana,
What type of resolution is fine?
screen, res, display settings. Hopefully will work.
It's totally not gonna work.
Oh my! It's being managed
Yeah.
by a remote session. Is it open somewhere else? Okay.
No, it literally says you can't do it from remote.
All right, we'll get over it. So let's go over some of the vulnerabilities we had. We had web shells. So if we go to our File Explorer and then go to this PC in the left-hand corner, if you guys can see that in the slightest, I'm just gonna.
So like your screen size will get fixed.
Do you have a remote console?
Yeah. Of course I do.
That might let you fix it.
I'm not a peasant.
Enter full screen mode. There we go. Now I can log in.
I'm on Windows.
Password bang. All right, now we can go to hit Windows key. It'll open up the File Explorer. We can tell it not to restart. Go to this PC, and under C drive, inet pub is where IIS is stored, and then we can see www root. And you can see all the files that are in the IIS. IIS may have not been a scored service on this box, but this is kind of demonstrating how to look at all the files on if you had IIS required. So if we want to look for PHP files, which you can use to execute code, you can go to search right here and PHP, hit enter. And you can see there's only three PHP scripts in this on this IIS server, which is quite a coincidence because there were 3 web shells that I put in this thing. So if we look at index.php, right here, well, if you pass in the parameter, if I zoom in, you pass in the parameter, it checks if the get parameter is set, and if it is set, it'll call the system command with the flag. So if I go to, I believe I can go to 10.20.100.14, and if I / index.php, and then I put a question mark, flag equals, and I can put like a command prompt command, so dir, and you'll see that it is now listing all of the files on in the current directory. I believe it's, oops. So flag equals, so no any other command prompt commands? No one? Yeah, I don't think anyone does anyway. I don't know dir. So now you can see you have code execution. It was kind of tough to utilize this. You can use it to gain reverse shell, which should be helpful. So if we go back to our screen thing, let's look at the other web shells we have. Obviously, you'd want to change it or delete it. So if you look at these other 2 PHP files, I tried tricking you by naming this Joomla CMS. That was the first thing that appeared when I looked up different CMS. So if you when you first open it, you see class shell, which if you open it, that's going to be kind of suspicious that there's something that's called shell. And you can see there's addresses, ports, it's doing a lot of things. You can see there's /bin/sh, like command prompt. Like just scrolling through this for a second would hopefully alerted you that this is doing something that it probably shouldn't have. And if I remember correctly, this was, okay, so when you connected to this PHP shell, it would basically spawn a reverse shell connecting back to your system on port 1234. So if you set up a listener on your Kali box on like netcat-lvnp, which is like verbose listen on this port on 1234, then if you visited this web server, it would spawn a new shell, and you can see this. It would get your remote address, and it would connect back to 1234 as the internet user for IIS. And the last web shell I'd set up was image generator. Scroll through this for a little while, and eventually you'll see Pony Shell. For those who don't know, Pony Shell is not something you really want to have on your system. It's just like a command prompt in your browser, in which you can execute whatever commands you like. So that's going over the first set of vulnerabilities we had. If I can find the things. I also had Samba v1. You can look up how to disable Samba v1 and replace it with Samba v2. One side effect is Samba v1 allows for anonymous authentication or doesn't even have any way to authenticate, so it's only anonymous. So your scoring engine will check will be successful. So if you change your passwords and you see that you're still getting scored on Samba and you never submitted password changes, that's kind of suspicious because that means you're running Samba v1, which will always accept any password or whatever, because there's no authentication. So anonymous will just work. So you'll have to post password changes once you upgrade it. So to upgrade it, we go back to our box, open up PowerShell, hopefully. It's a little bit slower than command prompt, yeah. So we can view, zoom in. So first, if we check it's enabled, get dash Windows optional feature dash online dash feature name. It's SMB1 protocol, which is like one of the first results on Google if you look up how to check if you have Samba v1 enabled. Hit enter, and if I spelled everything right, it should tell me that Samba v1 is state enabled, which for those who don't know, Samba v1 is running as administrator or system basically, and there is a pretty bad exploit called MS1710, which is used to just pwn Samba pretty easily. It's an MSF console. You can find different things you can use for that on the internet. So to disable it, luckily in PowerShell we can just replace get with disable. You can see that it's disabling up there at the top, waiting for it to finish. Do you want to restart the computer? Nope. So you can see it disabled. I believe if you switch to Samba 2 now, go back here to from disable to switch it to enable. It's running, didn't give us an error. Nope. Is it 3? Nope. Alright, my backup command is set Samba server configuration dash enable SMB2 protocol. And then you can put $true. And hopefully, under performance action, yes to all. There we go. No error. So if we hit up arrow a couple times, we can go back to this get Windows optional feature, switch that 1 to a 2, and hopefully it'll tell us nothing. Cool. How about get Samba Alright, let's go through this. We'll have enable Samba 2 protocol true, and Samba 1 protocol, so I guess we didn't disable it properly. So maybe if we go to set SMB server configuration to false, it's always important to double check these things to make sure you did it right. Oops, I just disabled 2. It's not. Yes to all. Alright, now if we switch this to 1, hopefully. There we go. You can see that Samba v1 or Samba version 1 protocol is false and protocol 2 is true. So now you're no longer vulnerable to MS1710. So that's something you want to double check. Red team will love throwing that at you and instantly getting system on your box. So if we look at the next vulnerability we have, RDP enabled. That's just if you go through and disable that if it's not a required service, which it wasn't. Also, there's a Bork Defender, and I destroyed it pretty bad because this is a beginner level competition and nobody knows how to make payloads that'll bypass Windows Defender, so I wanted to make sure no one was able to get their Windows Defender up and running. If you wanted to, you have to run like DISM, SFC, and you can look up how to use those to check the file system and make sure permissions are right. Because I did things like I set it in the registry, I disabled Windows Defender in group policy, I disabled Windows Defender. I even went as far as adding exclusions to exclude the entire C drive just in case you got it up and running. Also changed all the file permissions on Windows Defender, so it basically couldn't be run by a system, which made it pretty difficult to get it up and running. Any questions on what I did in Windows?
Someone asked how do they fix their web shells?
Very similar to Linux, there is a php.ini file. I'm not quite sure where it's located. You could easily find it if you Googled is Windows php.ini. And you can see like how to configure PHP settings in Windows. What I'd personally do is I'd look up secure php.ini from like GitHub, and I just pull that because it'd do a whole lot better job of disabling all the functions than I would. So this is your best case scenario because it has every function that can execute commands directly. If you upload this, it'll basically disable all web shells that you can get. I'd also make sure you delete ones you don't need if it's not required by the scoring engine. There we go. Any other questions? Alright, that's all I have for Windows. So once again, make sure you put these on your calendar. Set aside time. Hopefully we'll see most of you there. And please do, there's a feedback form, suggestions for competitions. It's a win to compete form. You can get these from the slides. Kind of like feedback for the meetings. Hopefully we can do a better job in the long term, and thank you. You can go.